Maple Grove is one of the most popular places to live in Minnesota. And if you were to actually take a look at the map, you would notice that it's almost a perfect square on the map, and that's no accident. See, its boundaries actually date all the way back to the 18th century by none other than Thomas Jefferson. But I'm gonna get to that in a bit. First, let's dive into the history of Maple Grove and how the community grew to what it is today, becoming one of the suburban behemoths in the Twin Cities area. Hi friends, my name is Mackenzie Rasmus, your local real estate advisor with Engel and Volkers Real Estate. And today we're gonna be diving into what makes Maple Grove, Maple Grove. Also, we're coming from my home studio here in Maple Grove, and I am so excited to build this out as we build out our YouTube presence. And you are just going to see that our studio improves. It's very bare bones right now, so bear with me as we improve this studio space, but I am super excited for you to see what's next. If you happen to not be subscribed, please do subscribe and give this channel a like. It helps every single time that you do that, and it helps us get in front of even more people and help tell the stories of the suburbs of the Twin Cities. So Maple Grove's story begins well before it was a suburb. So in the mid 1800s, the federal government actually moved the Winnebago tribe from rural Wisconsin, middle part of Wisconsin, to this area that is today known as Maple Grove. The reason why they did that is that they considered it to be an uninhabited area, and that they had even said that, quote, nobody lives there. Now, that of course was not the case. There was actually plenty of indigenous tribes that were already here, but it did open the door for settlers to begin to improve and develop the area. In 1851, explorers by the name of Louis Gervais and Pierre Bottineau arrived, and they staked claim to the area that will be known as Maple Grove. And if you're a history buff, you've probably heard about Bottineau. He played a major role in settling communities all across the state. And soon after, W.E. Evans, Harvey, Abel, Patrick Defer, and O.R. Champlin also settled in Maple Grove. If you're a Minnesotan, O.R. Champlin, that name definitely rings a few bells. The official founding of the city came in 1858, and then nearly a century later, Maple Grove was actually incorporated as a city. Now, those early years are what gave Maple Grove its identity. See, during this time, there were dense groves of maple trees, and the syrup production was actually part of the early economy that helped grow the city to what it is today. Now, let's go back to the geography of it. Now, Maple Grove stands out with almost its perfect square boundaries, but here's the fascination. If you look at the Hennepin County and realistically Minnesota as a whole, that's not unusual. Most Midwestern cities do look like that, and that goes all the way back to Thomas Jefferson. So Jefferson proposed what became the public land survey system. And if you've heard of that, that's because that's divided land into these 1 mile square sections, which were really useful for city development, but not quite as useful for the suburban and rural communities, which relied more on horse and buggy and car transportation compared to walking or urban transportation, where they would utilize those streets and avenues, those grid layouts more effectively. So going back to the public land survey system, surveyors would carve up counties, townships, and eventually cities, and that rectangular pattern is why so many places in the Midwest and the West have those clean lines on the map. That all comes from the legacy of that initial system that Thomas Jefferson installed all the way back in the 1700s. So Maple Grove's square shape, it's actually a direct result of America's expansion westward. And that system, like I said, still is in city boundaries to this day. So Maple Grove covers about 35 square miles in the north central area of Hennepin County. Roughly 93% of it is land and 7% of it is water, which means the city is dotted with several lakes and wetlands that do add to the natural beauty and does bring a lot of nature lovers to the city as well. Its geographic location also does make it a hub. It's right in the corner of the Twin Cities. You've got highways like 94, 610, and 494. They all connect here. And that makes Maple Grove not just a great place to live, but also a popular thoroughfare and a destination for shopping, dining, and business. And then to summarize, what started as farmland, Maple Grove then transformed through the 20th century. When it was incorporated in 1954, growth accelerated, neighborhoods began to fill in, schools were built, and the community expanded. By the 1990s and 2000s, Maple Grove had become one of the most popular suburbs in the metro, and today it's a city of nearly 70,000 people, but it still manages to find a balance of green spaces and community events and suburban comfort. All of this to say, why are people moving here? Well, let's break it down. So, parks and trails. Maple Grove is home to over 1,500 acres and more than 100 miles of trails thanks to the Elm Creek Park Reserve. That is the crown jewel, is one of the largest parks in the metro. You can ski there in the winter, you can mountain bike in the summer, you can swim in the man-made pond, or you can just hike through the miles of trails. I myself live right next to Elm Creek Park Reserve. I do all of my marathon training. During the fall, it is a very popular destination for us marathon runners to train. Also, Lifetime Fitness, which was founded here in the state of Minnesota, has announced plans to move their current location, which is shared with the Maple Grove Community Center, and move to its new location in Northwest Maple Grove, right next to 610 and 94 intersection. This deal will include a whole lot of development with spaces for Lifetime Work and Lifetime Live, where you've got shared co-working spaces as well as Lifetime apartments. This is all a part of Lifetime's plan to eat, work, and play with all things Lifetime. And that old space, well, it's gonna go back to the community center, and then the community center is going to expand throughout that whole building in Maple Grove. Plans to start building are starting at the end of the year, and it's plans to be finished by the beginning of 2027. So looking forward to that. You've got shopping and dining. If you've ever been to the shops at Arbor Lakes, you know Maple Grove has become a retail mecca for the entire Northwest Metro. From national chains to local boutique stores, it's got it all. It's also got a Costco. I mean, what more could you want? You've got great community life. Maple Grove has done a fantastic job at cultivating community spaces. The Town Green is an outdoor performance venue where you'll find concerts and movies and cultural events all year long. And the farmers market, it's one of the best in the metro. So you add all of this up, you can see why Maple Grove is not just any other suburb. It's a city with its own identity and amenities that just keep bringing people back. So when you see Maple Grove's square outline on a map, you're really looking at the legacy of Jefferson's land survey system. But what fills that square is really what makes Maple Grove such a rich history and its incredible lifestyle, with a thriving shopping and dining scene and a community that is always looking to grow while staying connected. That's why Maple Grove has honestly become one of the most popular places to live in Minnesota. If you are thinking about moving here and curious about what Maple Grove has to offer, let's connect. I would love to give you a tour and find your spot inside the square.